All right, this is David Rice. I have this Substack, Hit Christian. I'm also on YouTube and Rumble. And I just added Missouri Liberty Radio with Sam Britton. He is going to do my show, I think, on Wednesday nights. I'm with Dr. Wesley Scroggins. He's a professor at MSU, and he is the executive director of Abolish Abortion Missouri. And he is with us today to talk about what happened with the petitions, the initiative petitions, as they were going through and they got the signatures collected and gathered. And so all those ballots, uh, they got their signatures, we think, right? They're still in the process of being examined and verified and that,
Right.
but we do think they have the numbers.
Yeah, I'm certain that they do.
Yeah. So all seven districts are good.
Yes, as far as I know, I mean I think they've got the signatures they collected, they turned in over twice, maybe two and a half times the number that they actually needed. I
Okay.
don't think there's any way that that many signatures are going to be thrown out. So I'm pretty certain that they've got the signatures to get it on the ballot.
So as far as going on the ballot, there's going to be some language. What do we think the language is going to look like? And so let's talk about what it is first. What we're concerned about is uh, abortion up to 9 months on the ballot, and also transgender care for minors. And so that's what they were getting the
Mhm.
signatures for. That's what they're collecting the signatures for. But now, if it goes to the ballot, what will the language look like?
Well, the ballot language, we've got it. And I wished I should have probably had it here to where we could pull it up.
Okay.
Um, but it basically what this is called, it's called the Reproductive Freedom Initiative Act, I believe
Mm,
is the official name of it. And that's what you're going to see on the ballot. And it's basically the ballot language is just asking Missouri voters whether or not they want to put the right to reproductive freedom within the state constitution. And that's the way that it's going to read on the ballot. It does, I think, say something about repealing the abortion ban, which really isn't a ban. It
mhm.
just closed down the surgical clinics in the state. But repealing that, and then it will also, I believe, the ballot language says something about prohibiting government from controlling reproductive rights, reproductive freedoms. And so it's going to say something along those lines on the ballot. And the way that it's worded is that you will want to vote no on that, not to approve that and put that into the Constitution.
So they're going to word it in such a way it seems like they're protecting basic reproductive rights. Like it's just common sense. Why would you not want to vote for this? This is a
Correct.
They want you to think this is an easy yes, but we need people to understand this is a no. And but
That is right.
that's gonna be the hard sell, trying to convince people this is the right decision because they're not going to sell it as abortion up to 9 months. They're not going to
No.
sell it as the ability to uh, do transgender care for minors. And all of those things won't be part of what they sell on TV and their ads and things. They're going to sell it completely different.
That's correct. They will. But when you go back and you look at the actual petition, that if this thing passes, it will go into the Constitution. I believe it's Article 1. It will be Article 1, Section 36, I believe, in the state constitution. There's nothing in that petition. It's 3, 4 paragraphs long,
Hmm.
and there's nothing in that petition whatsoever that specifies, abortion, the right to an abortion up to a certain point. I mean, it leaves it open, clear up to the point of birth. There is no limit, no 6 or 8 or 15, 20 weeks. limit. It's just the right to an abortion,
Yeah.
and
There's no
and no, they're yeah,
heartbeat.
right up to the point of birth. And nope, they're not going to tell you that. My feeling is that, most Missourians do not want that, do not favor that. I still believe that.
Yeah.
In my heart, that the far majority of Missourians do not want abortion up to the point of birth. Anywhere, statutory, constitution, law, it doesn't matter. So, I think they know that, and they're certainly not gonna advertise that fact. Um, you know,
Yeah. And I think that's what's interesting about it, because we're talking what is it, about 5 months now? Where if a woman goes into premature labor, we can most likely save a child that is born at 5 months. And
yeah.
there's a lot of care that goes into that, a lot of uh,
Hmm.
work to do that, and the child's really small, but we can help save that child's life.
Yeah.
And yet the baby at 9 months, when he or she's 6 pounds to 8 pounds, everything's healthy, their lungs are healthy, they're ready to be born, they could just be murdered. And then the people who are doing it, what's their purpose in wanting to murder a child at that stage? Because it's not about reproductive rights.
Yeah.
Their long-term purpose is something, I think, more nefarious.
Well, I mean that's a good question, David. And here's what it comes down to for me. My conviction is, as a Christian man,
Hmm.
is that this is just evil. I mean,
Yeah.
people, we're wicked. We are evil people. We've become an evil, state, an evil nation, and wickedness is abounding all around us. And that's why I think that you see these pushes to to codify these kinds of things into law. It's just, as scripture says, evil has become good in the eyes of many people.
Hmm.
And that's what it is. It promotes the breakdown of family. It promotes the breakdown of a culture, of, a society. And I think, that there's an agenda out there that wants exactly that. Especially within this country, is to break down our Judeo-Christian heritage and culture, and that's a part of a greater agenda.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, I see that. I've been studying the ancient Canaanite culture and what they did with babies, and
Hmm.
their human sacrifices and their child sacrifices. And it was quite cruel. And what they were always doing in their sacrifices was trading the good of the community, the good of, say, the parents, for the life of the child.
Right.
And so there you see that same promise with abortion.
It's
I'm
the
gonna,
same principle.
yeah, I'm gonna trade the good of my child for the good of my life right now.
Hmm.
So, it,
Yeah.
and you see that, and they
Yeah.
promise these young women that if you kill your child, your life will be better.
Right.
And and it is an evil concept. I had
It is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. So I don't want to get too far on the weeds on that one, but on IP reform,
Hmm.
we were hopeful that the Missouri Senate would pass it. The House passed it and perfected it, which is just fancy language. They voted on it and sent it back to the Senate. And
Right.
Senate had an opportunity, and they promised that they would bring it to a vote. And the last,
Hmm.
there was some filibustering by the Republicans and then some filibustering by the Democrats. And they could have
Yeah.
voted to break the Democrat filibuster, but that's not what happened. Do you want to speak about that?
Yeah, I can speak to that just a bit. I mean, basically the IP reform, it was killed, the last few days of the session. It was killed by the Republican leadership. My understanding is they had the votes, the Republican senators had the votes to bring the resolution to a vote of the Senate. They had the votes to pass it in the Senate. And it was simply the leadership that said, nope, we ain't going to do it. And
Mhm.
never brought it to a vote and simply adjourned, ended the session, and went home. And that's my understanding as to how that happened. Um, you know, fact of the matter is, here we are today. We didn't get IP reform, and we should have. We it's been needed for years and years, not just on this abortion issue, but
Oh,
for every other issue that people bring up that want into the they want something into the Constitution. It should be hard to change our Constitution.
yeah.
We didn't get it. And now the fact of the matter is, going forward, we're going to have this abortion initiative petition on the ballot before the voters, November. I'm certain it's going to be November.
Yeah.
And it's only going to take a simple majority, 50% plus one vote to pass.
Yeah.
And that's all it's going to take.
And if IP reform had passed, it would have been a congressional majority or resolution
Mhm.
or something like that. And so
Concurrent.
concurrence, thank you. And
Mhm.
so that would have been like the 114 House districts. 84 of them would have to also agree to go with the vote. And so that just protects so it doesn't allow St. Louis and Kansas City and Springfield to tip the balance for the rest of the state. And so the
Right.
rest of the state still has a voice and they're not just overran. It provides a check on those three cities controlling the politics of the whole state.
Yeah, yeah, concurrent majority ratification, or
Thank you.
CMR, as it was called, that it simply reflects the electoral college, how we
Hmm.
elect the president at the federal level, in that the electoral college serves to do what you just said, to give, small states, with much less population than states like California, New York, Florida,
Hmm.
to give them a voice, a greater voice. And so that's what it was. And actually, the last version, there were several versions initially going forward. And one of them, and the one that we really favored, was the use of the state house districts.
Hmm.
And there's 163 state house districts,
Okay.
which would have required, with concurrent majority ratification, not only a simple majority for a petition to pass, but it would also require a majority vote in half, or over half, or 84 of those 163 state house districts. That's not what happened in the end. In the end, um, and actually this happened early on, the House districts were changed to congressional districts. And
So
so
it's just
Missouri has 8 congressional districts.
oh wait, okay.
And so what that last version that the House passed and that the Senate then should have passed would have required the simple majority vote and then a majority in 5 of the 8 U.S. congressional districts within the state.
Yeah.
And that's what we would have if it would have passed. And of course, it didn't.
Yeah, and that's the same type of check on power that you have with the Senate versus the House of Representatives. It's two, every state gets two senators.
Right.
And so California might have, I don't know how many reps they have, but they only have two senators.
Right.
Like Maryland has two senators, and that
Mhm.
gives them enough power to have a bit of a check on how laws are passed and before they get to the
Right.
president. And I, people were saying that if IP passes, it destroys the voice of the people, but it's a check on St. Louis, Kansas City, and Springfield, and
Mhm.
they're more liberal. Can we call it liberal?
Yeah.
Progressive policies. So,
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. And my argument is it doesn't hinder the voice of the people. My argument is that that concurrent majority ratification gives greater voice to the people, to most of the people within the state of Missouri, is what it would
Yeah,
have done. It would
I
it would
agree.
have given a much greater voice to people in rural areas of the state,
Yeah,
um,
it
who
it shares the power, I think. Shares the
it does. It does.
yeah.
And state house districts would have done that even better.
Hmm.
Even given the people in the rural areas a greater, louder voice than even the use of congressional districts. Because, with the state house districts, those if you're in a very, very rural area, your house district is going to carry just as much weight as a house district within Springfield, St. Louis, Kansas City.
Yeah.
It's
It,
going to have the very same effect, and it's the same weight. And so that's why we favored the state house district plan, was
mhm.
because it gives, in my opinion, much greater voice to people in the rural areas.
I agree too. I think
Mm.
Theodosia, out in the middle of nowhere, Missouri, it
Mm.
should have as much voice in deciding those types
Yeah.
of constitutional changes as St. Louis does. And because
Yeah.
you're right, it wasn't just about abortion, IP reform. It was about gambling. It's, there was
Mm.
all types of things that were going forward, and gambling shouldn't be part of the Constitution. You could make a good
Yeah.
argument that abortion shouldn't be part of the Constitution.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
these are
yeah.
things that should be statutes.
Yeah. I mean, marijuana, right?
Yes,
Marijuana
marijuana.
should, and see, that's the thing about the need for concurrent majority ratification.
Mhm.
When you go can you look at recreational marijuana, that we passed, what was that, in 2022?
Prop three, is that
That's
right?
how this all started. It may have been, but it all started as an initiative petition, went to the vote of the Missouri people. We voted it in. When you
Mhm.
break it down by the county level, I mean, talking about the rural voice, there are 114 counties in the state of Missouri.
There you go. Yeah.
Recreational marijuana passed in only 14 of those 114 counties. 100 counties, the majority of the people said no.
Yeah.
But those 14 counties were counties in the KC, St. Louis, Springfield area. And that's where all Columbia, that's where
Mhm.
all the people are. There were enough people in those 14 counties alone to vote that into the Constitution.
Yeah.
Um, and see, concurrent majority ratification would fix that to a great extent.
Yeah, I think it's a problem with the way people understand government and
Mhm.
understand the majority. And they don't understand that democracy is ruled by mob.
Yeah,
They and they don't understand that if you rule by the mob, you trample the rights of the minority.
right,
And so you destroy uh, any type of government where you can protect those who are weak, like those who are being who are unborn, because this ballot goes forward, it threatens to destroy the rights of the least protected class of people in our country or in our state, the people who have no political power at all. You know,
right.
the
Exactly.
the politicians, the only reason they don't care about the unborn is because they can't get votes out of them. They can't give them WIC dollars. They can't, you know, they can't give them food
Yeah,
stamps. They can't give them education dollars. They can't talk about we got to save the kids. They'll talk about saving the kids when it comes to education, but they won't talk about saving the kids before they're born.
right,
And
right. And many of them are funded, they get money from organizations that are pro-abortion. I
mhm,
mean, that's the way it is in Jeff City.
yeah,
To be honest with you, we've got pro-life Republican senators that take a lot of money from pro-abortion organizations. Do you think that they're going to take many steps to make it harder to end abortion? I mean, to make it easier to end abortion? They're not. They're taking all this money from these pro-abortion organizations. They're going to do their bidding. You follow the money, And a lot of times, when you follow the money, you can better understand, why some of our leaders in Jeff City do the things that they do, like killing the IP.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
They're more interested in their next job, you know. I'll name Caleb Rowden. He doesn't plan on running for state office, I think, after this.
right.
This is his 12 years are up. And so
Yeah.
he's done being a leader for the Senate. And so he's looking at his next job. He's looking at what he's going to get paid to do next. And he's always
Mhm.
been a very squishy Republican in his
Yes.
entire 12 years. And so he made sure to kill this bill because he's concerned about what he does after this. And
Yeah.
so,
And he's the president pro tem, has been the president of the Senate. The pro tem is this, it's called. And
uh-huh.
he is one of the senators that has taken a lot of money from pro-abortion organizations.
So the money that's coming in into our state from out of our state, how how much of the money that's coming against or well, let's say for abortion is out of state money?
I don't know. I would say there's a good percentage. I mean, I don't have a number, but I would say there's a good it's a good percentage of that money is from out of state organizations.
Is part of the reason it's hard to track because some of them are private institutions and you can't sunshine private
Yeah,
institutions. Yeah,
yeah. And I mean, the money is funneled here and it's funneled there. Sometimes it's kind of hard to just to
track.
track it.
Sure.
But this initiative petition, there's no doubt it's been funded to a very, very large extent by out-of-state organizations.
Yeah. I've heard I work with another organization and they were saying one of the groups of people were the Missouri Real Estate Association, the MRA.
Mhm.
They didn't want this to pass because for them, they want Missouri to be a pro-choice state because that draws in businesses. If they get more businesses, that means they sell more homes, they sell more
Mhm.
businesses, commercial licenses, or real estate. And so they were hoping that I made a joke. This is a joke. So if anybody comes and records it, it's a joke. But every time they sold a home, they needed to make sure that they handed out a coupon for a free abortion because
Yeah.
that's essentially what they were offering with their money. They were
Mhm.
trying to make sure that their commissions led to more abortions. And
Yeah. Yeah, you're correct. They were against it. I mean, I think I remember months ago seeing some kind of a letter written
mhm.
by maybe the president of the Realtors Association, urging legislators not to pass this and stating their reasons for opposition. But the Realtors Association was against it.
Yeah. And how
So
many of our church members are members of the Realtor Association? You know,
yeah,
it's just it's one of those things. We're gonna have to do some soul searching, I think, as
Mhm.
going forward. So, speaking of which, going forward, what are we gonna have to do in order to try to stop this bill? Because we know what they're gonna do. They're gonna spend maybe $1 billion trying to get this to pass.
They're going to spend a lot of money.
Yeah,
It's going to be a number of millions, to get it passed. You know, here's what I think it comes down to now. Here's my conviction on this is that this is it's a fight for the Church of Jesus Christ. I don't believe that God is going to use the Republican Party or the
no,
pro-life movement,
no,
to defeat this. I never really believed he was going to use IP reform. It
yeah,
didn't surprise me at all that IP reform went down. Um, he's not going to use conservatism to defeat this. This is a fight for the Church of Jesus Christ. And I'm convinced. I still believe. My conviction is that the church in Missouri will stand up and get in this fight, that we can defeat this. I mean, it doesn't have to pass in the state of Missouri. as it has all these other states. We can defeat this, but it's going to take the church getting involved and getting out there and making the truth about this petition known. What it entails, what it involves, that it's wrong, it's wickedness. It's going to take the church, all right,
Mhm.
getting out there and getting that job done. If we will do it, if pastors will organize, and if they will organize their people to get them out into the community to get that word out, I think we can defeat this. If the pastors, the Christian people in this state refuse to do it, we're going to wake up on the morning. I think what election day is it the 5th of November?
I think
But
so this year. Yeah.
we're going to wake up the next morning with abortion, a constitutional right,
Yeah.
and that's what it's going to take. And so, pastors, it's time right now. I mean, we're heading into June. It's time now to start connecting with other pastors, making phone calls, connecting with them, and trying to come up with a plan to organize your people in your community to, in the coming months, as we get closer to election, moving them out into the community with the word. We're going to try to print flyers. We
Mhm.
will get you all the flyers, with major points on it about the petition that we can all that you can hand out. We will do our best to do that. Um, but it's going to take the church getting out into the community and getting that word out. If we do it, I'm convinced God will bless it. We will defeat it.
Yeah, I think so. I have been more and more convinced that that's the solution. Getting the church
Mhm.
involved, having the churches do voter drives, register
Mhm.
the people to vote, and having the pastors just start preaching this from the pulpit and saying, "Hey, we have got to fight this." And like you said, talk to other pastors. So many pastors think that silence is godliness on
It's
politics.
sinful.
It is. Yeah.
Silence in the face of evil is sinful. It's cowardice and it's sinful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To though the lives of all those children that should have been born in Missouri, if this passes, it won't, God isn't going to hold those 8 senators, Missouri senators, as responsible as he holds the church, I think.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, scripture, I think it's Peter, right? Is it what? Is it Second Peter?
It
If
sounds
I
right.
remember correctly, where Peter says, judgment begins with the house of God.
Yeah.
And that is, God's not going to judge others until he judges his own house and cleans his own house up first
Yeah.
for our lack of response
Yeah.
to this. And so you are correct. And I think it begins. I think it begins, where those points there where you're talking about pastors addressing this from the pulpit. It should be an issue they should have already been addressing long ago. But it's going to take more than that. It's going to take more than just the pastors just saying to their people, "Hey, get to the ballot box in November and vote no." We're going to have to get the church out into the community
I
and
agree.
get the
Yeah.
word out.
Yeah.
That's what it's going to take. Um,
And we know for certain that the answer is no at this point on the
yeah,
ballot. Okay,
yeah.
so do we know what prop it's going to be?
I don't. I don't, and that's what we need to know. We need yeah, like what a letter or a number,
Yeah,
something like that. That's what it's going to be called on the ballot. Before we make those flyers, so that that name will be on there. And right now, I don't know that the Secretary of State's office has determined that at this point.
yeah.
Um, I don't know. And so that's what we're waiting on. And, unfortunately, if they don't do that until after the signatures are verified,
Hmm.
and they probably don't, because it's not until the signatures are verified that it's official that it's going to be put on the ballot to begin with. But I mean, we could be, it could be a long while. before we know.
Yeah.
And I mean, it may take Jay Ashcroft's office quite some time to get all this done. And one of the reasons for that is because they rely on county clerks around the state, in the individual counties, to help in that verification process, to verify the signatures in their county. And you've got some probably county clerks that that may not make this a top priority. I don't know. But that's one of the reasons why I don't see. I think you had mentioned earlier, Governor Parson having he does have, the option of placing this on the August primary ballot,
Yeah.
but at the same time, he may not, because we may not know soon enough, whether it's going to be on the ballot. It is, but I mean officially, right? Getting the
Mhm.
signatures verified, we may not know soon enough in advance of the August election to even have that option of putting it on the August ballot. And
And without
yeah,
that knowledge, you can't make flyers. So we have to make
yeah,
opposition. We have to go ahead with opposition now without maybe flyers, but
yep.
let the churches know, have conversations like this, publish them. If you are following my channel, if people follow my channel, this is one of the interviews that they probably should share out as often and as much as
Mhm.
possible. I don't ask that. I never ask that actually in an interview, and that's the weird thing about I just don't promote myself as well as I should. But yeah, share this interview with everybody. Let them know because we need to get people aware of what's coming.
Yeah,
This will be on the ballot, and we have to fight it starting today, like it will be in there either in August or November. So
that's right. That's right. And right now, I mean, it's too soon anyway to start going door to door and handing out flyers. I mean,
yeah,
if we did that today, by November, people aren't
everybody
going to
forget it.
remember
Yeah.
anything. But it is time right now. What we need to be doing right now is getting the pastors on board
Mm,
to start coming up with a plan for mobilizing their people in the coming months.
yeah.
That is what I see we need. And in Abolish Abortion Missouri, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to reach out to the pastors. Pastors, start connecting, coming up with a plan. What's your plan going to be in the
Hmm.
coming months? Getting your people out there. And
And and
that's where we
and
are.
and not being so afraid of losing tithe that you won't speak on this issue.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I'll say it plainly. If you're so concerned about your tithe dropping because you won't speak on this issue, then you need to step down as a pastor. Just
Yep. I agree.
to go away. Don't be a pastor anymore. Let someone else be called to that pulpit because we need men of God who aren't afraid to tell the truth and who will say that the hard things. And even if they lose tithe, they'll do the right thing. So.
That's correct. Amen.
Yeah. All right. Well, if you'll stay around for a couple minutes, for a couple housekeeping things, we'll finish
Sure.
up the interview. I appreciate you coming in. I know that we had a
Thanks for
couple
having me.
this week, and I appreciate you working with me on that. So, all right. Well, thank you very much. And any final words you want to add before?
Well, just final words. Once again, folks, we need to be praying, right? We need to be repenting of our own lack of involvement
Yeah.
and tolerance of the sin, the evil of killing babies over the years. We need to acknowledge that, that we've been a part of that, and repent of that. And we need to, whether you're a pastor or not, if you're not a pastor, you know,
Mhm.
it's time to go to your pastor. It's time to go to your church leaders and say, what are we going to do? Right? I mean, the fight is here. What are we going to do? And start thinking about those courses of actions that you can take.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Thank you so much for coming in, Dr. Scroggins.
Thank you.